chapter, and the end of the chapter deals with both muscle and nerve tissue. So let's start with muscle tissues, and the general characteristic of a muscle is that they are contractile. They can get shorter, quicker, thicken, and do so forcibly. They are also referred to as fibers because they are elongated, and there are three types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. So the first is the skeletal muscle. That's what we'll look at when we look at the muscular system. Skeletal muscle is attached to bones. It is striated, voluntary, multinucleated, and the cells that make it up are long and cylindrical. Skeletal muscles are stimulated by nerve cells, and we'll talk in great detail about what happens at the neuromuscular junction for muscle cells. Smooth muscles, on the other hand, are not striated. That striation pattern comes from the organization of actin and myosin within the cell. And smooth muscle, while it still uses actin and myosin for contraction, does not organize the actin and myosin in the same way. The cells of smooth muscle are spindle-shaped fibers. They're found in the walls of the hollow organs, including blood vessels, not in the heart, though. That's going to be cardiac muscle. They are involuntary. We don't have conscious control over them. Cardiac muscle is only found in the walls of the heart. It is long cylindrical cells, but those cells are branching between one another. The actin and myosin is similarly organized in cardiac muscle, so it is striated. And one of the key features of cardiac muscle is the presence of a very important junction between cells called the intercalated disc. It's what these little lines are. And that connects the cytoplasm of one cardiac muscle cell with another cardiac muscle cell. Nervous tissue is found in the brain and the spinal cord, as well as our peripheral nerves. The main types of cells are neurons. Neurons are specialized in communication by transmitting nerve impulses. Those nerve impulses are electrical events, and they lead to things like sensory reception, motor control, even perception, all of the black box stuff that happens inside the brain. The neurons integrate and coordinate body functions, those things that need to be taken care of very quickly. They have a target cell, and the target organ generally is skeletal muscle, but it could be a gland. But the other type of tissue cells that are found within nervous tissue are called neuroglia, and those neuroglia support and nourish the neurons. They keep the external environment around a neuron more stable even than most of the body, because neurons cannot tolerate much of a range of tolerance. They're very sensitive cells, and conditions have to be kept very tight among them. So these neuroglia cells, and we'll meet them individually in the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, are an important part of maintaining the environment around the very sensitive neurons. Tissue engineering, building a replacement bladder. So donor organs are in short supply, and there is the possibility that we could get tissue engineering to replace an organ if we could grow it from stem cells, a person's own matrix, or within some synthetic scaffold. And there has been a lot of work, and some of it has been quite successful, at least in animal models. This would avoid the problem of immune rejection. It has been used to provide skin, cartilage, bone, blood vessels. Urinary bladders are beginning to be replaced. We need progenitor cells, which are basically stem cells for smooth muscle and uroepithelium, and they can grow in a new scaffolded synthetic dome. Again, I am not real familiar with tissue engineering, but it is something you may find out about as you continue your nursing career. So muscle and nervous tissue. We've got skeletal muscle, which is long, thread-like cells striated with many nuclei, involved in voluntary movement of skeletal parts, and the muscles are always attached to a bone on one side, most often attached to a bone on both sides. Smooth muscle tissue is shorter cells with a single central nucleus that are involved in involuntary movements of internal organs, the walls of hollow organs, and our internal organs. Cardiac muscle tissue is a branch cells that are striated with a single nucleus. They're involved in the movement of the heart, and they are located only in the heart. Nervous tissue, we have cells with long cytoplasmic extensions, called dendrites and axons for the neurons, and the other cells, the glia cells, often have similar structures. They're involved in sensory reception, the release of neurotransmitters, and the conduction of electrical impulses. They're found in the brain and the spinal cord for the central nervous system, and in the periphery they are called nerves. All right, that will do it for Chapter 5.